Feli Numisloom, friends. That means happy first breath. The Nitron Hollyloom or Jollyloom holiday that takes place on March 21st each year to celebrate the beginning of spring. This little podcast was supposed to have taken place yesterday. I started recording it and a guy showed up to work on the windows. I thought he'd be here for a couple of hours. He left 9.5 hours later. Today, a variety of other workers, both inside and out, made it impossible for me to get back to this, so I'm just going to start from scratch. The reason for this one-off podcast is because yesterday marked the 2-year anniversary of the non-launch of the Academy of Omni Arts and Sciences. The project, as many of you know, has been 10 years in the making, and 2 days before its launch, California shut down for the pandemic. So today, we're going to look back at what's transpired in the world in the last couple of years, as well as since starting on the journey to the launch, which is going to happen this year, of the Ocademy. The obvious things are, just in the last 2 years, boy oh boy have things been different. Not only have we had a pandemic, literally pan, meaning global, it's insane, but we had a very contentious election in the US, the likes of which I've never seen. And then the situation at the Capitol on January 6th last year, and most recently, the situation in Ukraine. So many people have been hurt in so many ways, whether it's the loss of life, their own or someone else's, the loss of faith, the loss of health, the loss of friends, due to the divisiveness that's been going on in the USA. And at times like that, it reminds me, I've got an awful lot to be thankful for, and need to quit complaining about little things that seemingly go wrong, because there are people in this world that are really having a hard time and, quite frankly, suffering. So let's look at some of the fun stuff that's gone on since I started on this road. It started in September, right after Labor Day, or Labor Day weekend of 2011, when I got the idea for Siren School. I worked on it for about 2 years, but I was getting unwell during the process, and finally it was clear that I was not up to attending my own events. My health was just not up to it there, and I was in a little bit of crisis. So I had to shelve Siren School, and then through an unusual series of events having to do with not feeling well, I resurrected an idea that I'd had 20 years prior about a kid that goes through a portal to an interdimensional academy to escape his oppressive home life. I decided to write it as part of what's called National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo, where you try to write a 50,000-word novel in 1 month. This sucker ended up being over 80,000 words, but I got it done in a month, and my health was better, and I wanted to celebrate the fact that I'd done this. It was not edited, it was very poorly written, I certainly didn't know anything about story structure and all that, but it was still fun. So I had a tea and invited people, and they came, and that was that. On the way out, a dear friend mentioned that she thought I was onto something with the project. And I said, oh, well, no. This was just a fun little lark, and I'm not planning on doing anything with it. And thank you so much for coming. It was so sweet of you to support me in trying to write a whole book in a month. Well, her words stuck with me. And you know her as Trish of Trish and Brad Miller, the darling couple who do our Omnitale commentaries on YouTube. I took Trish's words to heart because she is a deeply loving soul and very wise and very caring. And if Trish says something, I pay attention. So I thought about it. And lo and behold, I decided to do something with what she said. I created a fictional academy based on that one book. At the same time, I was doing events with tea rooms trying to support them. And I noticed that by doing theme events, people would open up and let down their guard and cast aside their inhibitions when they were in costume or playing a role or just at something that had a theme. And I decided that I wanted to make that what the Ocademy was all about. And for those who don't know, I'm going to read the little elevator pitch that's on the front page of the Academy website. It says, Omni offers a whimsical, interactive approach to education, entertainment, and enrichment. Programs are designed to enable those with a pulse to realize their creative dreams through fantastical theme events, immersive experiences, and quirky artistic opportunities that transform mundane existence into magical adventure. I came up with that spiel, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and quite frankly, it stuck. That's what the Academy is all about. And now we're going to go over, as I said, a look and review over some of the things that have taken place and come to pass since first starting on this road. I wrote that rubbish book in summer or late 2016, and here's what's come of it since. This is what has taken place from 2019 and earlier. We created online element courses to find out about your element, as well as the element assessments quiz that you can take and find out which element you should be in. We've done a series of anthologies. When I decided that I was going to make this a real thing, and I knew it would take quite a while, I needed something to keep people on the hook, so we would do an anthology each year, and we've now done 5. So 5 years of doing anthologies. Siren School, since it wasn't active, I started a plunder program where you could earn ducats to put towards things. So when you participate in an anthology or come to an event, you earn ducats, which you could then cash in to pay for swag. I created the Tea Travelers Society. Nearest and dearest to my heart, the Whimsicalidocious Genteel Arts Nonprofit. We started meetup groups. We did an Omni Origins online course. Made matriculation available with both digital and tangible ways of participating in the Academy. Then in 2020, the year that was supposed to be the big launch, it started with an activity called Solialoom. It was a made-up holiday for leap year that's part of the whole lore of the Interdimensional Academy. It was sold out. It was a Paris in a Cup. We had a ball. Everyone dressed for it, got in the spirit of it, and then we locked down. Right then is when I was going to be launching my book series. I'd since learned more about how to write and tried to instill the story with story structure and all that stuff. And right when I was going to get the book series going, that's when we went into lockdown. Nobody cared a thing about a fantasy book about a 14-year-old kid living in California in 1974. And so the whole fantasy series tanked. My editor, Cindy Freeman, and I stuck with it. We still haven't found our audience, but I'm hoping to change that this year. We stuck with everything else too. We stuck with doing the annual anthology. We started doing omnicasts, meaning ridiculous newscasts presented by people in our community that we were meeting at the events. We did a silly fairy soap opera summation show, Love Among the Brambles, where people would call in and give scripted thoughts on each episode. We started the Sino Shore News Bites. That was little teeny blurbs every day for the Academy telling the latest news. Just a little short brief. Gooder sense and guidance tips. That's another thing that went the way of the dodo because people got too embroiled in real challenges, but we hope to get back to those later. And then our newsletter began going out once a month. I started the Snoring Bulldog podcast with my producer and assistant Molly, the bulldog who always snored, and there was no getting her to stop, so I named the podcast after her. I will tell you, with her gone, a lot of the stuff I used to do just isn't the same. We were partners in all this. She was with me from the beginning of this. In fact, in 2011, when I started Siren School, which led to the Academy, that's when we got Molly. So she's literally been with me since the beginning. In 2020, we released a couple of what are called Omni Quests, which are like online escape room experiences. Brad and Trish started their Omni Tales chapter and verse commentary videos. So even when it looked like we weren't doing anything and didn't get to launch, little seeds have been getting sown. Then in 2021, another year on hold, which I devoted toward nurturing our patron community, without me realizing it, stuff was happening then too. In addition to creating our Maecenas custom curated patronage site, we offered the Author's Journey Publishing Intensive. We offered Omni Annex online courses with everything from paranormal pursuits to aromatherapy to caring for dragonkind. We had our first cookbook launch, the Cooking is Elemental series with Terrace, Earth recipes, and even a launch luncheon at Paris in a Cup. And thank you to all who attended. That was so kind, I think, of everyone. We resurrected Siren School's La Vie Sirène digital magazine to do a one-off issue on midsummer magic. Whimsicalidocious did some craft parties. We started doing some Historicities with Charles Spratley at Illusions of the Past. And we published another anthology, the most recent one, The Hours in Prose and Verse. Which brings us to this year. This is what you can expect in 2022. Finally, after 6 years of trying to get it going, our Whimsicalidocious Genteel Arts nonprofit is underway. We have a fantastic board of creatives who are going to help us reach out to help others, whether in meaningful ways like with our homeless children's initiative that you'll hear about this summer, Shared Treasure Hunt, to OmniFet, our minuscule arts fair, for lack of a better term. We're starting Omnopoly, a literary game where when you read books, you win prizes. We just had our first surprise excursion. Expect many more of those. That's something near and dear to my heart. Our Club 1111 Supper Society, Dining Through Time and Space, will finally get going this spring, starting with a flamenco dinner show. Siren School's Fantasy Fitness, which was the impetus for all of this 11 years ago, is finally going to start slowly in SoCal with Tao Sheng. It's our version of Tai Chi and Qigong. That will be offered at a park overlooking the water by what's called Mother's Beach in Long Beach, starting in May or June of this year. Our theater company is coming back. It's going to be broken wall theatrical experiences because we interact. I call it theater in the midst, when you have the actors, instead of being up on a stage, they're right there with the audience, mingling with them. You can reach out and touch them. We've got a couple of projects coming up with that. Very, very, very exciting for me. I've missed that. Our first show will be this summer, Pre-Party Prom, an interactive show, and then Oracles, the Choose Your Path theatrical experience that will be digital. I've been wanting for 2 years to produce the My Epic Journal experience, which I'm not going to talk about right now because it would take the entire session. We have another cookbook coming out. This one is going to be about afternoon tea. We've got another magazine issue coming out. This one is called From Out of the Shadows during spooky season. And our fall anthology, number 6, will be about original and tweaked fairy tales. And we will be starting up finally with some of the merchandise and goodies we've been wanting to purvey for quite a while. So that takes us through 2022. What can you expect thereafter? Things are looking pretty darn good for Whimsicality to come to pass, meaning a venue, a brick and mortar home for our nonprofit, and then it would involve tea service to make money. Next year, you can expect our Fabled Creatures and Endangered Monsters Rescue to finally take off, with proceeds benefiting animal aid organizations. In the future, we'll have a Squallix tourney. If you don't know what Squallix is, join the club. Most people don't. It's part of the lore in my fantasy series. It's the sport they play. We'll have a Camp Omni cruise, where you learn about all of the elements while on a cruise ship. It's just one of those little Baja cruises, and you'll learn, for example, about Terrace, Earth, the flora and fauna when you go to Catalina. You learn about everything while you're on the cruise. We're going to finally start our Siren School mythical adventure getaways. And we're probably going to do that beginning with our Immortal Nolans weekend getaway that's been planned for a decade. It's themed, with participants going as either a gothic vampire or a steampunk vampire hunter. And it takes place in New Orleans with all of the activities and tours and wonderful things that support that theme. I'm very excited for that. In the future, we'll finally get to our Novel Ninjas Kids Summer Writing Program. We'll have fantasy fitness instructor training. Our Wellness is Elemental several-day retreat. Fairy Godmother certification. Siren soirees and day camp. And Recruitment Rush, where you can immerse yourself into the academy like you are a recruit coming in and going through that rush to determine which element estate you'll be part of. We're going to revisit the idea of the Tea Traveler Society having chapters in other states. That is by request. Every now and then somebody says, I live too far away. How can we get involved? We are going to work on that. We're going to have various language classes. We already have Naturim, the precursor to the Romance languages, which is available at no charge. We're going to get back to our Writing Out Loud series that we only did 2 of and then pulled it. This was years ago. These are videos where people read aloud the works of those in our community. We'll finally have Siren School's Lil Mermaids camps for merminions and mermaidens, as well as the Lil Mermaids Poise and Porpoise enrichment program for young women. If all goes well, a couple years down the line, Our plot element will initiate its traveling tea trolley that will basically be a food truck, sort of. And we've got a couple of interactive shows in the offing, as well as the 1960s spy cruise Red Herring, Cold War Hot Spies, that I have been trying to do for 22 years. I'll be very glad to get that one off my plate. And of course, we'll be having Tea and Sympathy investigative agency events. That's not exactly through the Academy, but Tea Travelers host those. And some other things. A couple book series are going on. A new book coming out that pulls the veil off a secret society. That will be coming out soon. And I'm finally starting to integrate the Academy stories with the other stories I've written. And so the 3 or 4 worlds will start having crossover activity. So that's where we've been, and that's where we're going. I am so excited for what's to come. We got an LLC this year for the Academy, and then when the Cala-T will be getting its own place, hopefully at the beginning of next year. And little by little, things have been happening. So even though it looked like everything was a total bust, and I'd invested all this money and was broke, I lived on credit cards to pay for everything in 2020, and just when it looked like things were down and out, look at all the stuff that's taken place. Without pushing, without really even trying, it just kind of unfolded so naturally. I wanted to have a grassroots approach anyway, and I'm so thankful for the community that we've cultivated during the last couple years. And I know in my heart, somehow, some way, someday, my little fantasy series will find its audience. We have 14 novellas out in that. Those are 2 stories. The first one's about 140,000 words for all 7 novellas, and then the second one would be about 130,000 words for all 7 novellas in that story. The next story will have its first novella coming out probably in fall, and we will take it from there. What I'm most looking forward to is what I mentioned in the quote on the Ocademy's front page, helping other people realize their creative dreams through all of our activities, so that the ones that feel that they have a mundane existence, they can see that at their fingertips, their life can be a magical adventure. Thank you for sticking with me through this, and for those who are going full speed ahead into the next 10 years, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are in for a fun ride, I believe. It's just going to get better and better, and we're going to bless more and more people. We're going to give more. This year's theme is outreach, so it's not about looking in, it's about giving and growing and supporting and promoting others. From the wonderful English country dance groups that we're now posting on Meetup again, to the nonprofit museums, house museums, and other entities that we're supporting by going to their events, whether it's the Victorian Tea Society, the Heritage House in Riverside, the Long Beach Maritime Institute. We're going to their ribbon cutting and lunch this weekend, going to a musical theater production, going to a concert. It's time for us to give and to reach out. Thank you again to our wonderful board, Cheryl, Cindy, Jackie, Janet, our advisor, Charles, our advisor, Sandy, our advisor, Roxanne, Trish, and if there's anyone I'm forgetting, you can pinch me later. I'm not forgetting you by choice. I'm very thankful for everyone that's helping us celebrate the genteel arts and make life a little bit sweeter. Cheris de Somme, everyone. If you don't know what that means, it's in Naturim. It means above all love. And then what is the reply? The other person says, they say, Allo Cheris de Plus, which means, and then love more. And that's what I intend to do. Thank you. Viranya Tuta.